This week on Top 3 Tuesday, we're talking about hip hinge preparation. Hey everybody, it's Drs. Andy and Brandon with Twin Cities Movement, and we are here today to talk about hip hinge preparation. We have finally made it through the entire body and on to some more exciting and wonderful things about preparing the body for different movements that are, important to do. The hip hinge is an especially important one. You use it for squatting, you use it for deadlifting, you use it for lifting things safely, keeping your lumbar spine braced and everything like that. You need to use your hips to complete any movements with that. So with all of those things in mind, we're going to talk about our favorite 3 or so ways of preparing for a hip hinge. But first, we're going to demonstrate a hip hinge. So I'll have Dr. Brandon go ahead and stand up. And we'll just go at the side here. I'm just going to have you hitch up your shirt just a little bit so your hips are just a little bit more visible. And then just go ahead and demonstrate. So he's got
falling backwards.
Falling backwards. That's an okay thing with a hip hinge sometimes, unless you have a lot of weight. So, nice soft knees. So you're not bending your knees. This isn't exactly a squat. You just have soft knees so that you can make sure you complete the movement okay. And then you stick your butt out. I mean, this is a relatively simple sort of concept, but it can be remarkably difficult, especially if somebody has back pain or has had back pain, or if somebody has told them, not to bend at the waist or not to do this or not to do that. These things are remarkably difficult to get that body awareness and everything like that. So that's kind of why we're covering this video. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to have you get on all fours, and we've probably seen this before. I'm pretty sure we've covered it. We're going to do the cat camel or the cat cow or however you want to look at it. You're going to drop your belly button to the floor. This movement is all in his pelvis. The cup is pouring over. Go ahead and push back out. Okay, so I'm going to have you do that a few times. We're going to do this to be able to find neutral. We're going to do this so that we can make sure we know where in our body the lumbar spine is in a neutral position. So go ahead and stop at neutral. Okay, very good. So this is neutral. Now, in order to feel how the hips feel when you are squatting down or when you are hinging, you're going to sit back on your butt. So go ahead and put your toes. There we go. Go ahead, neutral spine, and push back onto your heels. Good. So come on back up. Dr. Brandon's back is a little bit tight right now. I'm actually going to have him kick his knees out a little bit more and then bring your feet a little bit closer together. Now, go ahead and brace and push back. Good. So now there was no movement in the lumbar spine. And this is an important thing that we can note here, is that not everybody's body is the same. Dr. Brandon has hips that are different than mine, so he squats and he deadlifts and he hinges a little bit differently. So his knees need to be a little bit further apart in order for him to kind of safely do those squats and deadlifts and everything like that. So that's the first thing that we do, and that gives the hips a really good sensation of the hinging pattern, of the movement that they're going to be doing in that hinging pattern. So next I'm going to have you get up into a half kneeling position. And this one is especially good if you kind of have an asymmetrical bend to you, like if you squat to one side or something like that. This can be a good way of discovering which hip is tighter, which hip is looser, which hip is trying to avoid movements and things like that. So what you're going to do here is you're going to have like train tracks as opposed to a balance beam, and then you're going to hinge forward. And so this movement is for this hip. So this is the hip that's hinging. The other one is kind of hinging. It's doing sort of a hinge, but this one is the one that's really feeling the hip hinge. You're just going to do that a few times, and you're going to sink into it. Your butt's going back, and you're just kind of pushing into your midsection, making that thing happen. Good. And then I'll go ahead and switch sides too, just to make sure that you get both sides. It's not a bad thing to cover both sides in these sort of things. Especially, you're usually prepping this before you lift heavy weights. So it's a good idea to prepare yourself pretty well when you're going to go lift heavy weights. All right. So the last one we're going to do is what I'm going to call the wall bump. We're going to use this FMS board as the wall so that we don't have to move the camera around. So with this, you're just going to stand away from the wall, and you're just going to bend forward in a hip hinge, and you're going to stop when your butt hits the wall. You just keep going back and forth. Now, one thing that's important to note is if you don't do a proper hip hinge, if you're just bending at the waist, if you're bending at the lumbar spine, it's going to take you a lot longer. You're not going to be able to hit the wall. So that's why we do this wall bump. We cue this thing over and over and over again. We can also use a dowel along the back of the spine just to make sure that you're getting nice and rigid so that the back of your head and the upper back and the sacrum are all lined up. And we just do this and we repeat. And that's the thing. This is all about practice because your body, it learns by practicing. And so it becomes easier and easier, less intentional. So less intention is necessary and things like that. So yeah. That was our Top 3 Tuesday for this week, the hip hinge. So nice upright posture, chest up, just like this, butt goes back, soft knees, chest up. This is a hip hinge. This is a pretty important thing to know for a lot of movements. I mean, it's good for cycling, it's good for running, it's good for proper hip movement in general, and then, we go from there. It's a foundational human movement for a reason. So yeah, this was Top 3 Tuesday. Dr. Andy, Dr. Brandon with Twin Cities Movement. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can like or share this on Facebook if you know anybody that would like to learn a little bit more about hip hinging or other various exercises, the ones that we've covered in the past or the ones that we will probably be covering in the future. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter. Sign up for our email newsletter. We send out useful information on at least a monthly or maybe a bi-monthly basis to people who, want to learn more about how to take care of themselves, how to move better, and how to, feel better with movement. All right. Thank you so much for watching.